We're calling this our top three worst movies we saw in 2023. That might be kind of backwards logic. It might should be like bottom three, but we're gonna stick with top just because that's where we're at. But yeah, it looks like we got the whole crew in this week. I know Schultz, you were out last time because you're having some serious internet issues, so we're glad to have you
Yes.
rolling with us again.
So luckily got that
And
fixed.
yeah, no, I'm happy because I know last time it was like it seems like these things always happen to you the day we record things. So
Yeah, just a little bit, unfortunately.
and then we got TMR in with us as a guest to give us his picks for this past year. So yeah, before we jump in though, I just wanted to say to those watching, first of all, thank you for tuning in, and second of all, if you enjoy what we do, just it really helps us to subscribe, like the videos, comment, give us your feedback so that we can know how we're doing, what we can do better, and then also since this is something we do on the sort of in our spare time, the more support we get, the more time we can commit to it. So, like I said, thank y'all. Please give us a like, subscribe. Um, any of that would be very helpful. But that being said, let's get into the video here. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to have everybody go. We're going to give your third worst or third on the list, third being your least worst, one being your worst film you saw, and then we'll have everybody give their third, then everybody give their second, and then their first, and so on. So, but yeah, who wants to give us their third one starting out?
I guess I can. Mine's actually, I don't even know if you guys probably have seen this or heard of this movie, but it was not good. I know that. Movie is called Thanksgiving. It was like a slasher horror film, kind of thriller. Yeah, it was not great. We went to go see it literally like day after Thanksgiving because we are just like, oh, let's go see a movie, and that was playing, so we decided to do that. But the plot was just not great. It was kind of lackluster, and it just the kills were terrible, I guess you could say, for like a horror slasher film. Acting was not great either. Very, again, lackluster. Just not like B film. Almost felt like a B film, almost low budget. So that would be kind of like my third. I would say it wasn't nothing to write home about, I would say.
Well, and you're kind of the horror guru of us in this
Yeah.
group, since none of us other folks really watch much horror.
Mm.
So yeah, that I definitely don't. But I'm just kind of wondering what's up with all these slasher movies happening on like Christmas and Thanksgiving and stuff like that. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know actually. Honestly, I mean, there's been like a lot of different like holiday like themed like action movies or horror movies. Like there was like the what's that one called? I think recently it just came out like this during Christmas. I think it was called The Last Night or something like that. Or it had
Well,
the guy
so the
who
last
played
night last year they did, was it Silent
Silent Night.
Silent Night they
Yeah.
did.
Well, I think they did another one that's literally called The Silent Night, I think, this year as well. And it had the guy that played Rick Flag from Suicide Squad
Yeah.
in it. And I can't remember what that one was called. I think it was called The Silent Night, though, as well.
There was one called Violent Night. I think that was the one that had
that might be one
David
That's the
Harbour
one,
in it, I
yes.
think.
Yeah. And then, because he was Santa, I think, right? In that, I believe.
Something like that.
But, yeah, I don't know why they do it, but it doesn't really seem to be very good when they do it, because they always seem to kind of flop, so.
Yeah, but I mean, for some reason that genre really gets people, you know, for whatever reason, that's people just they go for that, and sometimes it doesn't always matter what the theme is. It's just like, hey, let's do this and put a bunch of people on the screen getting brutally murdered. So
yeah, yeah,
but
very fair.
Okay, well, I that was one I didn't see, but yeah, that's interesting that there's a horror movie based on Thanksgiving and not something to do with Halloween. So
yeah.
But
so,
well, TMR, how about you give us your first one on your list, or your least worst film on your list?
Honestly, for my least worst, I was not really thinking about it being like down there out of all the movies that I watched. Whenever I was watching the movie, I would not have thought that it would have been down there. But the more I thought about it, the more I just realized that I just wasn't super impressed with the movie overall, and that was Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. It was just one of those that I like Transformers movies, and but it was just one of those that I walked out of the theater just not being. Wasn't necessarily that it was the worst thing I'd ever seen, but obviously because it's not my worst, but I just knew that I wasn't very impressed with. There just wasn't anything that stood out about it, I guess, to me. But really, that's the only reason that it made this list. I mean, there were a lot of other movies that I almost went and saw that I know would have been worse. Um, but because they were so universally accepted as horrible movies, then I just didn't even waste my time with them. And so that's really honestly the only reason this one even got on the list.
I think that was a lot of us though, because we talked. I know me and
Yeah.
Schultz had a conversation about that earlier. Where we were like, you know, yeah, how do we pick our worst ones? Because even our worst ones, I mean, at least one of the ones on mine wasn't even necessarily just a gosh awful film. It was
Right.
just like
Yeah.
I just didn't see the movies that I knew were terrible based on
Yes.
reviews and what I heard from other people, because it's
Exactly.
like we talked about, you spend a minimum like $15 to go see a movie in theaters these days, and so you're only
Yeah.
going to go see ones that you feel like are worth your money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I avoided a lot of movies that probably would have easily made the list, but
Yep.
yeah, it's just kind of, it makes it a little bit harder to pick, but um, it's probably saving you some pain in the process of having to
Yeah.
sit through those. Um, I think Iskusell's having some internet issues, so I think we're gonna pass on him for now. But well, I don't know what it is. We have a curse on our internet or something, um, but I'll go ahead and do mine. So mine was I feel like these are somewhat interchangeable, because I think maybe I'm gonna pick this one over my second one just because I think it's a little bit more coherent than the other one is. But my third worst, or in terms of what I saw this year, movies that I didn't do it for me, was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Um, it's it's not so much that it's the worst film I've seen, because like we talked about. I know some of us had conversations about it after it came out, and we watched it and everything. I know we did a review on that not that long ago, but um, it just wasn't a good Indiana Jones movie. And I think that's kind of where the problem in it lies, is it does not justify its existence. And so you get into it, and you get to the end of the film, and you're like, okay, we didn't need this story. Like, it doesn't help or progress the character of Indiana Jones any more than what we saw at the end of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. If anything, it um, maybe butchers the character a little bit more, or makes him more of a a deadbeat bum sort of character. And it's like I feel like that's the common trope nowadays for bringing back well established characters that are past their prime. Is just like, hey, let's just make them old and useless and sad. And it's like,
Yes.
so I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with it. I don't know that that's um you know, I wasn't as annoyed, I think, with some things as some characters and things like that other people were. Um, Story is just kind of generic. Like, I just remember not being very invested. It doesn't really make you care about many of the characters that much. Um, that's kind of my brief summary. I don't really have much more. I guess we've been into depth with it with our review, so I won't go into it much more. But that's kind of why it's there for me.
Oh, that's very fair, I think, because I was actually debating on if I want to put that on my list as well. So I wasn't sure yet, because again, it's so hard to pick a worst movie, because I just didn't really go see very many movies to begin with this year, because I don't think there was really that many great movies I wanted to go see this year, to be honest, or past technically 2023. But yeah, I was debating putting it on my list as well, because it just wasn't that great of a movie, but it wasn't necessarily terrible, I guess.
No, but it's just one of those things where it's
Gotta make
like,
the bottom three.
yeah, you gotta
Yeah,
make them, you gotta pick them.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
but yeah, that being said, Schultz, why don't you give us your second one?
All right, my second one is actually a movie I literally watched last night for this reason, for this video, because I was trying to find other movies to watch so I could be like, all right, this movie's terrible, so I'm gonna put it on my list, and that would be Knock at the Cabin. Absolutely
Huh.
terrible. Worst movie well, not worst movie. I'll give you my worst movie, but
Oh dear.
second worst movie I've ever seen last year, and honestly, it's up there like worst movie I've ever seen to begin with. Like it just was not great. Like the plot was very predictable.
Is
Like
that
how
one
they
was that one also a horror movie?
it was like a thriller. I wouldn't consider it horror. It was more like a thriller by M. Night Shyamalan, which again, going into it, I kind of already figured it wasn't gonna be great because like his track record's not that great. But normally, like M. Night Shyamalan, at least for me, like I think he always has like a really like decent like twist ending sometimes, where it's just like kind of catches you off guard. But like this was just like very predictable. Like you knew exactly what was gonna happen, when it was gonna happen, and it just I don't know, it just like everything that was happening in my brain, I was like, all right, this is gonna happen, and it happened. It's just like was very predictable. And the acting wasn't terrible. Like Dave Bautista was in it. That was pretty cool. I mean, I love Dave Bautista.
Okay.
I think he's a great actor. Does a great job in a lot of his movies, but that didn't make up for it at all. I mean, just the plot was not great. The writing was terrible. I mean, the ending was just kind of dumb. Wasn't anything too great. So that is the second one on my list, though.
Yeah, I'm and for the record, the criteria for this is the movie has to have released in 2023. Because like I know I watched a lot more movies than just movies that came out last year that
Mm-hmm.
if I was making just a list of movies I watched last year,
Yeah.
I would have chosen different ones for this list. But just for clarification for people watching, this has to be movies that came out in 2023. So yeah, that maybe that'll clear some of that up. But
Yeah.
TMR, how about you? What's your second?
My second one was the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that came out. I probably honestly wouldn't have watched it to begin with, but I ended up watching it with a group of friends. They just wanted to watch it, so we all got together and watched it. And
Have you played the game before at all?
I did a little bit, and then I watched like when I was younger, I watched a lot of the YouTube videos of about like all the lore and stuff behind it, and so I haven't played all the games, but I was very interested in the whole universe and everything. I thought it was pretty cool. But the movie was just a mess. I mean, the main characters end up. I don't know if y'all want any spoilers or anything, or if it even matters to y'all. But
Not to me. I'm not in
pretty
that
much
genre usually. So
okay, cool. So basically just general overview. The main characters end up teaming up with the animatronics like halfway through the movie, which is just goes against everything Five Nights at Freddy's. That alone completely ruined the movie for me. Yeah, and so it was like there was a lot of cool little Easter eggs from the games and things like that, like a bunch of fan service type stuff. But as soon as the main characters teamed up with the animatronics I don't even remember who. I think the main antagonist ended up being Springtrap, which was like a man inside of one of the animatronic costumes. But the rest of the animatronics teamed up against him. It was really weird. It was all over the place, and they tried to play it off as scary, and none of it was scary. It just came across as silly, pretty much. So yeah, that was my second worst pick.
So what I find funny about that though, like him being inside the animatronics, for one of the things, is the fact that it's Matthew Lillard, and Matthew Lillard played a famous character unmasking, monsters and villains and stuff from Scooby Doo. So I just think that's kind of like, to me, is ironic and kind of funny about that though. The fact that they had him in a whole costume, pretty much, animatronic.
yeah, and that's it. That's interesting that would be on your list because from everything I'd heard, it had done pretty well with fans of the game, or at least audiences that I had seen had been pretty favorable towards it. So
yeah,
Yeah, I think it was probably like more or less like people that haven't probably played the games. I feel like that probably didn't really care for it because I heard like a lot of people that like at least like my buddies that have played the game like a ton, that are into like all the lore and stuff. They said they really liked it and thought it was good.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know how that really works. I guess I mean I haven't watched it myself, but I just know a couple buddies like they said they enjoyed it. They played the games a ton, but
Maybe and maybe it was just me. I was
honestly,
bewildered. It really blew my mind that they ended up teaming up with the animatronics at all. And so that was the only part that kind of ruined it for me a little bit.
I mean, honestly, I don't think you're wrong though. I think that's kind of like a dumb plot point, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like have them like team up with the animatronics. Like that's nothing like the games. I feel like 'cause, I mean, I played the games like when I was kind of younger, and I don't remember ever being able to do something like that. So
No, it's
I
not.
mean,
I don't think it is part of the
no,
games.
I mean,
which I
isn't
mean,
the
very
point of it is like you're trying to survive being murdered by these
Yes.
animatronic
yeah.
animals? I mean, that's
hmm
kind of the whole.
Yeah, to an extent. I feel like there's probably like a lot more. It's probably a lot more deep than that. I feel like probably if you actually
Yeah.
played it more, but I don't know because there's so many
I
different
wouldn't
games
last
too.
very long. I can't do horror.
Yeah.
What if you want proof? Watch your Halloween special. That was some. That was some y'all forced me to watch all your scariest clips.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but that's interesting. I'm actually I'm a little surprised that that made somebody's list, considering what I'd heard from it. But I have also not seen the movie, so I can't speak to that. But
Yeah.
um, yeah. So my second one is going to be one I feel like was mostly unpopular. Um, but it's just one of those. I remember watching it, and my second one is gonna be it's gonna be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Mm.
Um, I kind of, we're all people who, we've sat in every Marvel movie through Phase 3, some through Phase 4. I kind of stopped after Spider-Man No Way Home, and I don't think I've actually been to see a Marvel movie in theaters since that one. So just the quality dropped on them. I mean, well, a lot of us are aware of that. We've done videos on that already. But for me, it was just visually, it looks fake. It looks terrible. You can tell it's filmed largely in the volume, which has that, that dome-ish look to it, where a lot of the sets feel really small and circular and all these things. And there's really no g- there's really no good coherent plot other than get stuck in quantum realm through some contrived means, and then this one character who for some reason refuses to tell everybody that Kang's down here and he's terrible and he's going to kill everybody. Like the whole movie, she's just like, I just can't tell you. And it's like, why shouldn't these people know there's this dangerous villain out there trying to kill people? um and it's just um Ant-Man's kind of sidelined, as it's kind of his movie and everything. So, and Wasp as well, she's really not. She doesn't play just a huge prominent role in that film. But I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of how they did Modoc, or um, they they really do a disservice to Kang, because it seems like every time he shows up, he loses. And it's like, if you're trying to build up the next big bad villain, which obviously we know now they're moving on from him because of all the Jonathan Majors stuff. But um, that's really not the way to do it. You need to do it like they did with Thanos, and it's like, okay, he's going to send all these really powerful minions of his that you have a really hard time killing, and then when he finally shows up, he's just wreaking havoc on everybody. And so they, I think that's part of the problem too, is that they really just they don't set up his character well for like the umpteenth time. And then it's just a forgettable movie. There's really no much like a lot of the stuff um in Phase 4. It's like there's really no coherent nature to it at all, if that makes sense. All right, Schultz,
Agreed.
hit
Well,
us with your
my
worstest of the worst.
the worst is actually what you just said right there, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, okay.
Quantumania.
Okay.
Movie was absolutely terrible. I wish I could get my money back. And Yeah, I wish I would have walked out of that theater like 20 minutes into the movie. Like it was not great. And like I just hate it. Like they literally just ruined like the Kane character, I feel like, as well. Like in the comic books, like you see him as like this formidable foe that like some people compare him to even like worse than Thanos. And just like how they introduced him was just like not a great way to do it. Like they had Ant-Man going up against him. Like I'm sorry, but like Ant-Man should have got his butt kicked the entire time. Like there's no way he should have come out of that fight like alive, especially for someone who literally killed the Avengers. Like he said he killed the Avengers in his own world. Like that, and then you're losing to Ant-Man of all people. Like that just doesn't
Yeah.
seem believable to me personally.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the movie in general didn't like progress the plot for like I guess Kane in a way. Like it just kind of like felt like it just ended right there. And like yeah, we know about the other Kanes and all that, but I don't know. It just didn't. I just feel like it didn't like progress the plot into farther into his like dynasty. I guess you could call it whatever you want. But like you said, it's not a thing anymore. Thank God. So I am okay with that. I mean, I like Jonathan Major as an actor. I think he's done pretty good. Like Creed 3, he was pretty decent in.
Yeah, I liked him in Creed 3.
Yeah, I think he did a really good job in that. I mean, he's done good in movies, but I just don't think that was. I mean, like I guess maybe necessarily his performance wasn't terrible. I suppose I think it was probably just more or less the writing. Like I don't think Jonathan Majors did a terrible job playing and performing as Kane, but I just think it. Yeah, probably just the writing for the shows and the movies. Really, like in Loki, it's not that bad. I guess like it didn't. To me, at least, it was probably better than what we got for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I feel like Kane was, I don't know, a little bit more interesting in those. I guess it was more like story to him. I feel like, but yeah, that's my number one though. It was Ant-Man and the Wasp. Terrible movie. Wish could have got my money back. So
Words of wisdom.
0 out of 10. Would not recommend.
yeah. So
All right, TMR, what you got for us?
All right. My worst movie of the year was the Barbie movie. Okay.
oh,
And
it's gonna be controversial.
some people would shame me for even knowing that I walked in the theater to watch that movie. All right. But I enjoy a good comedy movie every now and then. And I thought that's what this was going to be. And for the first, maybe
You were duped, poor brother. You were
I
duped.
was because for the first like 30 minutes of the movie, maybe they were actually setting the movie up. This is my opinion. They were actually setting the movie up to be a really funny. It could have been a really funny comedy movie. But it all went downhill, especially around the halfway mark. The whole movie just continued to go downhill, and I don't even think I can get into all of it because I could just keep talking. But that's definitely my worst movie of the year was the Barbie movie.
Yeah, see, like me and Taylor went to go see it in theaters, and honestly, like I can't lie, like I kind of enjoyed it to an extent. It was like, all right, whatever. I just kind of like turned my like
Yeah, turn in your
mind
man
off.
card now, right?
Well, no, I like turned my mind off, just watching the movie zoned out type deal. But like, I don't know, it was like I don't consider it like probably like the worst movie I've ever seen, but I don't think it was like amazing to the point where it could.
No, it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen.
You know,
there were some funny parts.
There was, yeah, 100%. And I think like Ryan Gosling, honestly, I kind of think he killed that role. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. His role was just funny to me. Like seeing Ryan Gosling of all people just play Ken was just.
I think my main thing was just like I said, it could have been a really funny movie, and there were funny parts in the movie, but it was ultimately overshadowed by a lot of messaging and things they were trying to push in the back, kind of in the background, and then really it was really in your face towards the end. But
that's fair.
That's just where I'm at with that.
That's very fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I debated back and forth watching that on streaming, and I was like, "This movie's not for me. I'm not even gonna." And I every time I started to do it, I was like, there's something in me that just won't let me do it. I don't know if it's just the man in me that won't let me do it, but I never did, and so I'm gonna leave that up to you guys to give me your hot takes on that.
Like
but
your kids walk in and you got to switch it over to football right quick.
Yep.
Like, hey, kids.
So, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania actually was my number one until I remembered that I watched this other movie because I had forgotten. Like that's how forgettable this movie was. I had forgotten I'd watched it, and And so my number one is actually the live action remake on Disney Plus of the Peter Pan and Wendy.
Oh,
Oh,
It was direct to streaming.
yep.
I can't remember why I watched it because I don't watch really the live action Disney stuff anymore. Very much, at least. There may be a few here and there, but I did because like we grew up watching obviously the cartoon, the original, and then we watched the one from Universal from the early 2000s that had Jason Isaacs. He played Hook, and he played the dad. And I'm trying to remember if there was any other bigger actors in there that would have been
was that
recognizable.
was that the
Are
one
you
with
talking
Robin
about
Williams?
Robin Williams? The
Yeah.
Robin
No.
Williams?
That's Hook.
I know that's
Oh,
Hook.
okay.
I just
But
didn't
you're
know if that
thinking,
was
I'm
the one you
thinking
were
of the other
talking
one.
about.
This
Though?
one was It's called Peter Pan, but it was
Oh,
the
okay.
one they
Gotcha.
did.
Okay. Was it
It
the
was
animated one,
Universal
or was
that
it like
did
a
it.
real like live action one as well?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Y'all may
No,
know what I'm talking
I
about.
don't know. It's not really ringing a bell. At first, I thought you were talking about Hook. To be honest,
Yeah.
I was like, Robin Williams is in that. I think if I remember right, but
But yeah, this um that I don't know. It was just to me, Disney's reached the point where they can't do anything original, really. Um, they just kind of continue to sort of rehash stuff that's already been done. And we've already had multiple live action um, Peter Pan movies and spin-offs and different things like that. But I don't know. It felt very soulless. It didn't have there wasn't a lot of really emotional punch or heart to it. It was just kind of like, hey, here's this uh, movie that you know this story that's been told however many times, but this time we we're going to tell it less interesting and less like you're going to care a lot less about it. So that's kind of where
it's almost like every
where
Disney
I'm
live action
at
movie they come out with
that
nowadays.
one.
Just about.
It's just it's I don't know. I didn't think the acting was particularly good. I didn't think I don't know. It was just one of those that um, like I said, it was to the point where I legitimately forgot 2 seconds later that I watched that I watched it. So yeah, this is the one. I'm gonna pull it up here just so maybe y'all have seen this. But this is an IMD um, post of it.
Oh, this one, yeah, for sure. I've seen this.
Yeah. So this is the one I grew up watching. It's actually
this was a
it
decent
stays
one.
very true to the soul of the original and everything, but
Okay, yeah.
but yeah, it's kind of hit leaps and bounds above the one the one that Disney Plus did. So, but yeah, that's gonna be my my number one this year, and yeah, I can't say I'm surprised. All of ours were a little bit different. Obviously, I felt like there was a couple that would be the same. I was a little surprised I was the only one that had Indiana Jones on my list, but
I never got around to watching that one, or it may have been on mine, but
Don't watch it. You're not missing out on anything.
yeah, I figured not.
So,
There's a lot of movies that I was planning on watching, and then literally everyone around me was like, "You're not missing out. Don't even waste your time with this." So that's why there was a lot of movies that I ended up not watching this year that I was going to watch.
yeah.
Like Peter Pan and Wendy. That was one that I was planning on watching, and then Jen told me that it was bad. And if Jenna tells you that a movie is bad, then it must be really bad because she doesn't dislike very many things. So I didn't even bother with it.
Well, you didn't lose anything there. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.